We're living in very uncertain times, strange times. I'm sure you've heard that said on many occasions. And who would have thought, if we went back 6 months, that in fact people would be so concerned these days about income, about health, future plans, and indeed for some people just everyday living. When Hugh Bourne first suggested the idea of Bible Bites, there was a phrase that came to my mind from the book of Hebrews, and I want to share that with you in just a moment. So let me read first of all from Hebrews chapter 12, beginning at verse 26, when the writer begins by referring back to the time when God gave Moses the Ten Commandments. Hebrews 12:26. At that time, God's voice shook the earth, but now he has promised, once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. The words once more indicate the removal of things that can be shaken, that is, the created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and worship God with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. The writer of the Hebrews is referring back to the prophet Haggai in the Old Testament, who was looking back to the time when God gave the Ten Commandments and the Mount Sinai, where Moses met with God, was shaken. He says there's a day coming when God will shake not just the earth, but also the heavens. But, and a very important but here, a word to Christians, we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. The idea of God being an unshakable rock is something that comes over in a number of places in the Old Testament. Psalm 62 verse 3 says, "Truly God is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, and I will never be shaken." Isaiah 54:10, God says, "Though the mountains be shaken and the hills removed, my unfailing love will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace removed." Moving on to the New Testament, we have those words spoken by Jesus when he said, "I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." We are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Commenting on these words, the theologian Raymond Brown says this: Christians belong to the order of things that cannot be shaken, in a world when things that are happening they are aware of, but they do not fill them with fear. They are conscious of political instability, social pressures, economic hazards, religious apostasy, physical hardship, moral decay, but they don't despair. Their trust is in God, and they are safe. Therefore, the writer says, going back to verse 28, we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Therefore, let us be thankful and worship God with reverence and awe. When Greta and I were living in Uganda, we had a very unpleasant experience on one occasion. Some men broke into the house with guns and they said, "We don't want to take anything, we just want to kill you." You can imagine the thoughts of horror that went through our mind. But Greta was given a verse from the book of Luke, when Jesus said these words, "Do not fear those who kill the body, and after that can do no more. Fear him who, after killing the body, has the power to throw you into hell." A kingdom that cannot be shaken. Professor John Wyatt of UCL, writing in Christianity this month, said, a paper was written in The Lancet, published in July, which referred to increased evidence of stress, depression and anxiety in the population, and said that sadly, this seems to affect Christians as well. And he said he needs to remind himself that he's not just a helpless victim of forces outside his control, but he can choose what to focus on and indeed where to put his trust. I'm looking forward to that day when we return to church and we can sing together those great hymns such as that one by Joachim Noander when he wrote, "All my hope on God is founded, all my trust he shall renew." we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Praise God.